This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. Your war room for insider news and draft analysis from deep within the confines of Cowboys headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
The Dallas Cowboys select Tyler Smith.
And now, your host, Kyle Yeomans.
Today is Wednesday, April 19th, 2023, as we are now 8 days away from the NFL Draft in Kansas City. Just over a week. And by the time we record tomorrow, we'll be 1 week out. How about that? From the NFL Draft. It flew by, but we are here, and we've got back-to-back episodes Wednesday and Thursday this week to get you ready heading into the week of the draft. We've got the entire crew here in the SWBC studios today. Brian Broaddus, Bobby Belt, Zach Wolchuk, Aisha Morrison. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Everybody ready? Bobby, great to have you back.
I'm ready.
Bobby!
Never better. Ready to go.
Man.
Locked and loaded.
Who's the pick at 26 go?
Michael Mayer.
Wow, okay. Little tight end talk.
I think it's going to come down to two. I think Mayer is clearly in play. I think Wright, Darnell Wright from Tennessee, I think is in. And I think if Bijan Robinson gets to him, I think they would take him.
I think Will McDonald needs to be part of that discussion too.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, there's
Yeah.
like 8 names I feel like could be potential there depending on what breaks ahead of them.
Yeah, I think the Will McDonald stuff in too. And I would throw in Drew Sanders as well.
Yeah,
I mean, that's how open this thing is at 26. But if you ask me to handicap him, I think the Mayer pick is one that I would really look at.
Mayer over Kincaid? Or are you expecting Kincaid not to be there?
I think Kincaid's the first off the board.
So for them, based on what Stephen Jones told us on 105.3 The Fan yesterday, the way that he was describing these tight ends, it basically narrowed it down to it. And maybe that this is also the smoke. You know, you got to try and, hey, what's the BS? What's the fluff? What's real? But the way he described the tight ends, it's you got to be able to block in line. Mm-hmm. And then what else can you do in terms of being a pass catcher? That, to me, eliminates Musgrave. Mm-hmm. And I think Mayer and Washington are the two best complete when it comes to blocking and pass catching ability. So I'd look at those two. But you guys know I have Kincaid one. I agree with Bobby, though. The way we're getting closer to it, I think it's likely you could have Kincaid and Mayer both off the board. And I think you're right, Brian, because I don't think Darnell Wright's going to make it. Drew Sanders might very well be in play here at 26.
Yeah, and you mentioned Darnell Washington. He also brought up a name like Martellus Bennett.
Yeah, the comparison.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you have Michael McCarthy
that worked out great
here.
for them.
Yes. Wait. You make me sick, Bobby. You make me sick.
That's a Super Bowl champ, right?
Stop it. But no, I was just saying, like, when you talk about tight end, the athleticism and all that stuff, he mentioned Martellus Bennett too. So I thought that was along the lines of the Darnell Washington thing. That's been the comp, I guess, to him.
Do you think Darnell Wright, do you think it hurts him or helps his case to be there at 26, the fact that he is not pigeonholed into the tackle spot? Because he does have that guard flex, that position flex that could either help your stock or it could hurt your stock. What does it do for Darnell Wright?
I think it helps him because I think it's one of those things where it's not viewed as like it's not the issue with Skoronski, right? Where it's like you may have to have him play guard. I think with Wright, it's we can also have him play guard. And so I think that the way they view it is they look at it as he has flexibility, not necessarily that he has to be kicked inside to have success or anything like that. I think that there's a belief throughout most of the NFL community that Wright could play tackle. I would play him at guard, but I think most people probably feel like that guy can play tackle, and if he has any trouble there, then we can look at him at guard.
Yeah, I think he is a tackle, and I think he's the best right tackle in the draft. I think he's the third best tackle overall in the draft, in my opinion, right behind Paris Johnson and Broderick Jones from Georgia. But I do think he would be...
Do you have Skoronski as a guard?
I have Skoronski as a guard.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's far and away the best guard in the class.
Cool.
And we can get into that later. Like, if there's a player you trade up for, to be honest, he's the only one that I think I would. He can be that big of an impact, I think, for the Cowboys, especially when you look moving forward about Zach Martin getting older. Yeah. I think that there's a lot of value there. But Wright, to me, I would be hesitant because I think I would want to play him at right tackle immediately. I think he might end up being the best right tackle on the team. And I love Terrence Steele, but I think he's a more well-rounded player. But the ability to kick inside and play left guard is certainly something that will help him.
Darnell Wright's a better player than what Tyler Smith was last year at coming out of Tulsa.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, and you see what they did with Tyler Smith and what they were able to make that work. Darnell Wright is a mean human being. And it reminds me very much of Ron Leary playing guard here, how mean Ron Leary was. And if you want to get back to if Mike McCarthy's talking about running the ball and being stout up front and all that, Darnell Wright makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. We've talked about the guards, from Florida or TCU. But I think, to me, this guy's the 19th best player on my board, Darnell Wright. And if you let me pick him at 26, I'm handing that card in and I'm going on, because I know I'm going to plug him in and I'm going to let him play left guard. I'm going to keep Tyler Smith at left tackle, and I'm going to have a mean left side of that offensive line.
Amen. And as we get closer to this, Aisha, he's kind of becoming my dream scenario there at 26.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and also, too, when you talk about some of the names we talked about from the guard position that are maybe later in the round guys like a Villa, you say to yourself, well, with Darnell Wright, in my opinion, I think you'll have a better. I don't feel like a lot of people feel like you're reaching if you take a Villa at 26. I don't feel like if Darnell Wright is there, I'm okay. I'm okay with it because I understand what he can do in the run game, especially establishing the physicality at the second level. It's important to me.
100%. It is. And his ability to me against elite competition, I feel like in the big games, he played better. You look at the year that Tennessee had, they're not having that without Darnell Wright out there. And what he was able to do against Will Anderson, B.J. Ojulari, we've talked about this. I think
those were his two best games.
Yes.
Some of the best.
And those are two of the premium edge rushers, not only in this draft, but last year in the entire country in college football. Darnell Wright handled them. That's why I think he is a tackle. But the position flex for the Cowboys, being able to plug and play at left guard, my gosh, I think it'd be a great value pick, and I think he would immediately help them come day one at training camp. I think that he would dominate mini camps and camp. We're going to be like, wow, this is awesome. Tyler Smith, we were excited about. You're right, Brian. This kid's better.
I think Mel Kiper in his last mock draft had Wright already gone. I think he had Wright going in ahead of the Cowboys.
Right,
so
our friend Dane Brugler also.
16 was.
I think it was 16.
Okay.
Who?
Washington.
Commanders.
Washington.
Oh. Barnacle.
Yeah.
and Dane Brugler had him going 21 too. I think there were a couple spots where he was gone. Now, on the flip side of things, we've talked about offensive players at 26 for 9 months. I mean, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but forever we have talked about offensive players. What does it say if the Will McDonalds of Iowa State and the Arkansas linebacker Drew Sanders are the pick, Brian? What does that say about your current state of your football team? The fact that offense has been the pigeonhole pick for so long, but now it's, okay, let's go with the best player available.
Well, I'll tell you what, it tells me a lot that Dan Quinn carries a big stick in that draft room, because he went out there and, he's worked these. The thing about with Sanders makes a lot of sense, because Aisha talks about this quite a bit too with the Cowboys. If you look at they're too deep on defense and stuff like that, their linebacking core has some questions to it.
Yeah.
And the one thing that you could do with Drew Sanders is we've seen his ability to rush, and we know that Dan Quinn likes to take linebackers and make them have that ability, create that opportunity to pass rush. Drew Sanders can do that. He can. It's one of those guys that just doesn't come off the field. I don't think people are talking about him near enough. But I think his ability and what he's capable of doing and how he plays would be a really good fit, because Dan likes to use his guys in a lot of different ways. Drew Sanders fits that bill.
The one thing about Drew Sanders, I think he needs to get stronger. I feel like when linemen are able to get to the second level, they get on him clean. That's where he'll struggle to get off blocks. But, Kyle and I, we've been covering this kid since he was at Denton Ryan, being an absolute monster. So I've been able to follow his entire career. I love him. I mean, he's a thumper. When he hits you, he leaves remember me type of shots. The edge versatility is why I think a lot of people in today's day and age, especially when we've talked about this is a weak linebacker class, right, fans would see or hear the pick of Drew Sanders and they'll think, oh my gosh, why are you taking off-ball linebacker? He very easily could be the best, but the edge versatility that he brings you is something that we saw they were able to tap into with Micah Parsons. He shows that even more than Micah did coming out from Penn State.
No doubt.
Yeah, my question for you guys, though, is if you take a Drew Sanders in round 1 at 26, what does that mean for Micah Parsons? Because when you start looking at Micah Parsons, I mean, I've heard him numerous times talk about how many times him wanting to be more of a linebacker and be, have that ambiguity from where he was rushing from. The DN position we saw this past season, he talked about getting his calluses and getting his, playing that edge is not easy.
No.
So I wonder if they take, Drew Sanders first round, what does that mean for Micah Parsons? Is he going to be a DN more so, or is he going to still have some of that linebacker flex, or is that going to take him out of that position a little bit more? What do you guys think?
I mean, the way Quinn, I think, calls defense, it would be a rotation of Vander Esch, Parsons, Sanders, and they would all be disguised. So, like, it's different things where Parsons could rush or Sanders could rush, or you could have, Sanders looking like he's coming off the edge. Parsons is at linebacker, and it could be Parsons ends up rushing, Sanders drops. There's different things. Sanders obviously is not the comparison for me pretty consistently on Sanders has been Vander Esch, actually. That, I mean, I think it's same size, same sort of athleticism.
Not as good in coverage, though?
Not as good in coverage, but he's better rushing the passer and late. But it's the same question about getting off blocks and the physicality. It's the same sort of issue. So I think they're similar players. To me, I think they view, regardless of how they disguise it, they view Micah Parsons as a pass rusher. Whether he's doing it from linebacker, he's doing it off the edge. Either way, they think he's an edge rusher.
Sanders can run and chase, though, man. There was a play he tracked down Bryce Young when they were playing Alabama. I was like, holy heck, this dude's got some fun closing speed. He would be a Swiss Army knife for Dan Quinn. I mean, I'd get excited about it. I got a second-round grade on him, but when you're picking at 26, the likelihood of having a first-round grade is not high. I don't think Drew Sanders would be a reach there at all.
I'm shocked you didn't have a first-round grade on him. I know. Honestly, I have a first-round grade
Being
on
biased,
him.
I wanted to put it. I just don't think there's a first-round linebacker in this draft.
He's the only one that's on my board, but I like him a lot in that regard. All right. We have, of course, 1 week until the draft. This is what Brian brought us as tabbed as lying season, right?
Yeah, well, there's
lying.
Yeah, you lie. You lie a lot.
We're not lying, of course.
We're not.
You've been lying to me for weeks now.
How many media members did you lie to in your personnel days?
I never did.
Or do you remember one where maybe you threw somebody off the scent?
Sal Palantonio from ESPN called me a liar when I was in Philadelphia.
Sal Pal? Whole name.
25. Sal Powell called me a liar. 25 years ago, I ran a draft in Philadelphia. And I got reminded of that when I was doing radio with you the other day because it's the anniversary of the Ryan Leaf, Peyton Manning, and that was the 98 draft. So I remember doing a press conference before and talking about taking Trey Thomas. We really liked the tackle, And Sal Palantonio came up to me right afterwards and said, "You're a liar." And I said, "Excuse me?" He goes, "You're a liar." And I said, "What do you mean I'm a liar?" And he goes, "You're lying about who you're going to take." I said, "Sal, I'm not lying to you." I had a chance too. WIP, the radio station in Philadelphia, they had a guy named Gary Cobb. I think Gary does afternoons now with in Philly, or does something, does work still with WIP. Cobb did an overnight radio show. I was sitting at the Vet in Philly, the old stadium, and I was listening to his show. I was watching tape. It was probably 3 a.m. Just watching tape. And I heard it talking on the radio, and he goes, "I wonder who this Brian Broaddus is going to take." I called in, I told him we're going to take Trey Thomas. That's who we're going to take. He goes, "No, man, you're lying to me." I said, "No, I'm not lying to you." But that was before the era of Twitter and people like that. So if you were a truck driver or somebody, a late night shift worker in Philadelphia, you heard who we were going to pick. Because I told Gary Cobb who we were going to take. Put it all over. Yeah, I told Gary Cobb, I said, "We're going to take Trey Thomas, the tackle from Florida State." And he didn't believe me. And then every time after I saw Gary Cobb, he's like, "Man, you did it. You did it." And I said, "No, I just was, I didn't feel like I needed to lie to you about it."
Can you imagine if Bobby was in the front office, the amount of chum he'd be throwing in the water?
Oh, it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
You would be king troll at this time of year.
Yeah. I might say that I was going to hire Condoleezza Rice as my head coach. I might stir things
Jail,
up that way.
Bobby.
Yeah.
Jail, Bobby.
The Schefter got burned on that one. But,
that was a Shefty? That was your guy, Dove Kleiman.
Yeah. No, that was a Schefter report back in the day. You gotta stir it up a little bit, right? You gotta sandbag a little. And so I would imagine. I'm stunned you never once took advantage of it.
Nah. Oh. I didn't.
You did the reverse psychology. You made it sound so blunt that it had to be a lie, and in reality,
well, no, it's funny.
Smart.
We were. What was the kid's name? I can't remember. This was a draft, and Larry Lacewell. It was a kid that was from the University of Texas. That was a safety. That was a corner.
Quentin Jammer.
Gosh, dang.
Wow.
Good
know that.
Good for young minds.
How did you just do
that? Was the
Roy
Williams
that's good.
Draft.
Good.
They like Jammer.
All right, so we're sitting in the draft room real quick. I'm story time with Brian here today.
Story time.
But we're sitting in the draft room, and myself and Larry Lacewell and all the scouts are sitting around, and we have the pick. It was the Roy Williams draft, and so we have the pick after. We really like Quentin Jammer. Thanks for remembering the name. So we like Quentin Jammer, and San Diego had the pick ahead of us, and the guy named John Butler was the GM, and Lacewell goes, "I wonder what Butler's thinking about right now." So we're all looking at each other. He picks up the phone and just hits a button, and it goes to San Diego. He goes, "John, Larry Lacewell here in Dallas." He goes, "Who are you taking?" He goes, "Larry, we're going to take Quentin Jammer right ahead of you." And Larry goes, "Oh, okay, thanks." Hangs up the phone, and we're all like, "Man, was he bluffing?" Sure enough, he took Quentin Jammer right ahead of us. He just said, "We're taking Quentin Jammer." And sometimes you could shock people that way. You just go ahead and say, "Yeah, we're going to take whoever. Yeah, we're going to take this guy," and you're really going to take him. And people are going, "There's no way he just told us who he's taking."
Wasn't that right after when Minnesota didn't turn their pick in on time, and then everybody was running up like 3 picks in a row?
That was the Roy Williams draft was the one where we went down to 2 seconds on the clock. Mm-hmm. That's what Jerry had. Jerry had Kansas City on one phone and Minnesota on the other. And Carl Peterson, he got Carl Peterson in Kansas City to admit who he was going to take, which never happens. Then he got Frank Gilliam from Minnesota to take who he goes. Jerry hangs up the phone and goes, "They're not taking our guys. Let's trade back. Which is the best pick?" So we took it all the way down.
You got 3 teams to admit in 10 minutes who they were going to pick.
Jerry got Carl Peterson to admit and got the Quentin Jammer was before the draft. But that was the draft that Chris Hall, Chris Hall walks in the room in the draft room and goes, "Did anybody call the NFL office to send the pick in or send the trade in?"
Oh, no.
And Stephen Jones just immediately dives on the table. He hits the button and goes, "It's Joel Bussard." And he goes, "Joel, we got to trade. We got to trade with Kansas City." And you could see the clock go 5, 4, and then Robert Blackwell is in New York, just kind of like going. He's like, "Can I hand in the card?" He's like, "I got no card."
Almost pulled a Viking.
What happens if
that was the same draft?
You pass. They pass. So you pass, and then everybody can run their pick.
Yes, they can all skip you.
They can all skip
now
you.
You can pick at any moment.
Which is what happened right after that. You guys traded with Kansas City, right?
Right. We traded.
And they took Ryan Sims.
And
then Minnesota didn't get their pick on time, and then it was like 2-3 people.
Did they go Kevin Williams in that draft?
Yeah.
It was crazy, but
basically
what
it's
year
chaos.
Is this?
2002.
Oh, I wasn't. I barely existed.
You should YouTube that. It's pretty funny.
It's
to go back and
incredible.
watch.
we watched. We were sitting there all like watching the car, and then Chris Hall, God bless him, Hall goes, Did anybody turn the trade in? And Steven just spun and dove from the table. Joel, we got to trade.
Gosh, I love that story.
And the league called back, and Steven hit the button and goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Dallas." And Buster comes on and goes, "Steven, don't you effing ever do that again." and Steven's, "Yeah, thanks, Joe. Yeah, we're good, man. We're good. Thanks. Appreciate you." And we hung up and we were all just like laughing.
Fun.
Wow.
But we were literally like the clock, it's 5, 4, and we don't have a card. I mean, everybody's thinking we hadn't, what's going on here? It was mass chaos in the draft.
It sounds like
all of this to be said, it is lying season.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's
go.
lying season all the way through. So we have a little bit of factor fib around this draft.
Okay.
Okay.
Little factor fib. I'm going to give you some, and Zach Wolchuk
I took so long on the
sprinkled a bunch.
stories here.
I loved it. We can push this to the third segment too, and we can get it extra in there too. But I've got these statements. I want you to tell me if this is a fact or if this is a fib. These are based off of recent reports around the NFL draft and what could happen come next week. And Aisha, I'll start with you on this one. Only 2 wide receivers will go in the first round of next week's draft. Is that a fact or is that a fib? 2 wide receivers.
I think it's a. I feel like these tackles are gonna go off the board fast. Fib. I think more go.
More go?
I think more go.
If you had to put a number on it, how many do you think it would go?
I would say at least 3 to 4.
Okay.
At the very least.
That sounds about right. Right? Jordan Addison.
No, I think
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah.
Zay Flowers.
Flowers.
Those would be my 3.
Yeah.
The fact
about
that Zay
Johnston?
Flowers got invited to the combine means the NFL thinks he's going to the
Yes,
first round.
I
Got
think
invited
Zay
to the draft.
Flowers is one of those guys that people, like I said, I think he's undeniable. I think it's kind of hard to deny what you see on tape at this
I may
point.
need to hit that list too.
I
of who's
did.
going.
I was on the Giants.com the other day, and
Mm-hmm.
all they were talking about was Zay Flowers. They're looking at wide receivers. They're asking me about wide receivers. They're asking about corners.
Have they not drafted enough joysticky
I
receivers?
know.
It's been
That's-
every year
that's-
for like
Zay's
the last
the best
4
thing
That's
years.
the
Who
thing.
say it again? The Giants.
That the Giants.
And then they just sit and let them go.
Yeah.
They
To
just let
Kansas
Tommy
City.
go,
win a
and they
ring.
get Wandell Robinson,
Stop
and
going
they,
to
like that's
Kansas
their
City.
whole.
I'll tell you,
MO.
that's it. They have a team full of slot receivers, is what they do.
Sterling Shepard.
But they were talking about Flowers. But
They love slots.
I think it's interesting.
Who doesn't?
I think your number 3's. I think your number 3's interesting. I do. But there's some people that say that it's just one.
Just one.
Did I miss something? I was like, focusing
No.
on
We're just talking about the Giants drafting philosophy.
Yeah, just
Y'all.
But could Smith and Jigba? I wonder how, because I think if you ask teams around the league, I don't think anybody has the same 3 wide receivers on the top of their board. I don't.
No.
I think you go give me your top 10 receivers, and I guarantee you that it's not like the past where it was Chase, Jefferson, Lamb. No. It's Addison, Smith and Jigba, Johnston. It's Smith and Jigba, Johnston, Addison.
Flowers,
It's
Downs.
Flowers. It's Flowers, Smith and Jigba.
Some might have Josh Downs in the mix.
Some people think that Jalen Hyatt.
There you go.
Because of the
Yeah.
speed. So, yeah, it's difficult to put your finger on
Nagy
who's
told
who.
us he thinks some teams might have Tillman higher.
Yeah.
Than
Okay, so
Hyatt.
Cedric Tillman out of Tennessee is getting the most buzz right now of all the receivers. The
It's
one
size.
The one who's falling, also with size though, is Quentin Johnston.
I
from
blame
TCU.
you, Brian.
For what?
I blame everybody because people want. I mean, we're used to seeing some of these bigger receivers be in the mix, and I think that they have to be in the people are making them be in the
Hey,
conversation.
I was wrong.
I blame you, Brian.
I was wrong about Joey Bosa now, but don't put this one on me.
I blame you, Brian.
Joey Bosa.
You hated Joey Bosa.
I compared him to Greg Ellis, and Greg Ellis is a damn good player. I mean, Joey Bosa's I'm like, he could have the same sack numbers. He
You
could
like
have
Noah
the same.
Spence more.
Noah Spence.
You did like Noah Spence more.
damn
I'll
good
tell you
player.
what, Bobby. Did I tell you I've been doing this for 25 years? Awkward. Did I tell you I've been doing this for 25
you're
years?
gonna hit
I've heard. You don't have
you call me a liar?
You don't have the football to point to me.
Where's my ring? Where's my ring? Where's my Super Bowl?
Where's it at? Zach, the Texans will
blaming
trade
me over there? What are you doing?
The Texans will trade out of the number 2 pick next weekend.
I think that's a fact.
Oh my God!
I think the Texans are moving out of that thing. I don't think it'll be the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are going to get bleeped in this scenario. I think the Texans do not want to take a quarterback. I'm buying into some of this Tyree Wilson hype right now. I've been trying to talk to some of these Houston folks that I know. They're not really sure because DeMeco Ryans is one of these guys that's lying. He's trying to pull everybody off sides, but I really do
South
think
Hall would hate him.
Their connection to
Call him a liar.
The guy to
He did
look
call me
at,
a liar.
and Brian, you've talked to me about this. Lance Zierlein.
Yeah.
When Lance Zierlein, it was like a week or two ago, mocks Tyree Wilson to the Texans. I started asking around some people that I know in Houston. They do like Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech a lot. I think they're looking to bail. And I think that they want to try and move back, get some more picks because they're not in love with the quarterbacks. I think it's fact right now. If I had to bet, I think the Texans move back from 2.
Who's their quarterback right now?
Davis Mills.
Davis Mills.
Bye.
Yeah, that's the only
You can't-
question that I
can't.
have is, Davis Mills. But if you're not going to take Stroud or Young at 1 or 2, there's a good shot you find a Levis or a Richardson or a Hooker, depending on how far you want to
They got another pick.
They pick
right?
at 12.
They pick at
That's
12.
fair.
They could probably have their pick of those 3 guys. Maybe not one of the 3.
And it could just be you go from 2 to 4 with Indy, or it's Tennessee. Tennessee's the sleeper in this that wants to move up from 11 for a quarterback, and they could stack up, have back-to-back picks at 11 and 12.
What do you think, Brian? You think they'd do something like that?
I think he's on to something. I really do like Lance Zierlein down there in Houston. I think he is plugged into what's going on with the Texans. He has some crazy mock drafts, and but that's what the NFL is. It ain't all about chalk. It's about sometimes you got to be creative. There's people already whispering about that all these mocks that people have been doing are just going to be ridiculously look bad.
Probably.
Because the teams are like, no, we don't see it this way. So if Zierlein is telling me that they're not going to take it, I think that ownership, and I don't know if ownership is strong enough to stand in there and say we got to draft a quarterback, or do they really trust Nick Cesario and that crew there to make that happen?
And if you don't love one of those quarterbacks, why force that pick, right?
Yeah. I guess.
And also, not to mention, you look at what could happen behind you, too, because somebody could trade into 3, somebody could do all these other things, and then...
I'll tell you this, though. I would have a hard time if I was Houston, because I know in my stack that I got Bryce Young as my second best player. I would have a hard time that if the Carolina Panthers didn't take Bryce Young, I would have a hard time passing on Bryce Young if I was.
That could change the scenario.
Because if Carolina makes some crazy pick that we really didn't, they've talked about Richardson, they've talked about others. Maybe Stroud, I don't know. But if they make some kind of pick where Bryce Young's available, I ain't moving out of there. I'll take Bryce Young, and here we go.
Yeah, right with it from there. Do you think that Carolina takes Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud? It's kind of seeming like it's funneling down to.
I think the odds on Bryce Young right now at number one are minus 12,000 in Vegas.
You could have got it for plus 250
and
like 2 weeks ago.
All the rest of his pre-draft visits. To me, I don't think you do that unless Carolina has told you we're taking one.
Either that, or you're trying to say that you want to in the top 3 or 4 need to take me because I ain't if you want me to work out and all that, fine. But I'm done. I'm done with all that. I think maybe it's kind of like with Carter, saying, listen, if you're not a top 10 team, I'm not interested in coming to visit you.
More reasonable for Bryce Young to hold that position than Jalen Carter, though.
Sure, because that's going to be our next factor fib.
Man,
hey, how about this for a transition? Jalen Carter will not fall out of the top 10 picks. Factor fib, Bobby Bill.
Won't fall out.
Won't fall
That's
out.
A fact. He's not going to fall out.
Okay.
So now I wouldn't feel comfortable staking a top 10 pick on what has clearly been a shoddy reputation with his work ethic and his off the field, maturity and everything else. And so I wouldn't feel great about doing that. If the Cowboys were in the top 10 of the draft this year, I wouldn't feel good about any connection of Jalen Carter to the Cowboys.
I'm opposite of that, Bobby, because I feel like that if I was in the top 10, I would have my FBI guys, my security guys. I'd had everybody there in Athens, Georgia, trying to figure this kid out. The film's too good.
To be fair, though, not just here in Dallas, plenty of other places have sent their investigators, felt good about a pick of a player like that, and it has gone south.
I'll gamble on that. That's what the draft's all about, though.
The talent is too good to pass.
Yeah, you don't want to sit there and pass on somebody that, like I say, if it's a bust, if he's a bust as a player, then you know what? That's on me. I deserve to get fired. If he's a bust because I didn't do my due diligence by sending my FBI guys in or my security team and learning about him or following him around or digging up information about him, then shame on me too. But I'm taking that shot.
And his position that he plays, much like we've talked about tight end, there's so few game records at that position. I'm not passing on him. I'm going to gamble, and if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong.
He'll go in the top 10, I think. I'm pretty sure he will. But
yeah, and if he didn't, I feel like I would immediately know something else, what's going on. But to your point, I do think that the DT position, specifically just like the nose, is starting to become not a need, but something that people are looking for, and it's not that easy to find. It's not that easy to find sure guys that can stop the run and rush the pass. Do both.
Yeah.
Yep.
It feels like almost either or at that position right now. So he brings a value that I think, like you guys said, people are gonna look over it. People are gonna look over it and do what they need to do.
I think I do think you have to do your work.
Tracking.
I do. To me, if I was in that top 10, and even though if I didn't feel like I owe it to myself to find out about this kid, I owe it to myself.
Who's a player that you at any point had to send research people on that you went, oh, yep, we're out on this one?
Randy Moss.
Wow.
Barnacles, Brian.
That's a big one.
And that was Jeff Lurie's decision in Philadelphia. That was, again, 25 years ago in a draft. I remember sending our FBI guy, we went to Morgantown, to Huntington, and then and did all that, went to West Virginia, did all that stuff, learned everything we could about him. And another one, too, was Ryan Leaf. That was another one where we got a lot of information.
And you said we're out.
Yeah, I know the thing with Randy Moss, and I remember the conversation I had with Jeff Lurie, the owner of the Eagles, was he goes, Brian, I just don't feel comfortable taking Randy Moss, and I said, fine. I go, I just want you to know that he is our number one wide receiver on the board. He goes, that's fine. We're good. We'll be fine. And I said, yes, sir, we'll be fine. And so we went into that draft, and Randy Moss was not on our board. And when he went and we saw him skip going down, he got passed by Cincinnati twice. And you're like going, were we right? And then he ends up in Minnesota. And Randy Moss was nothing but a great player. But there were a lot of things about Randy Moss's past that some people in the league just did not feel comfortable with.
Wow. That's interesting to really hear about in the past, because you never know what's going to happen next week, because those same types of conversations are happening right now. All right, let's take our first break. We'll have a couple more factor fibs in the last segment. We'll sprinkle a couple more in there. But when we come back, it's time for some Twitter on the 20 right after this.
Hey Cowboys fans, if you're looking for a full-time or part-time job, check out Liberty Tax, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. If you've got tax experience and want to help your community with their finances, you're the perfect candidate. No tax experience? We also offer in-person tax school courses locally. Liberty Tax has 79 locations across DFW and 2,300 offices nationwide. Learn more about our job opportunities at libertytax.com/hiring or call your local Liberty Tax office today.
Craving something flavorful? Replace that bloated burrito feeling with Smoothie King's new Power Meal Smoothies. With 3 delicious flavors like cinnamon banana, blueberry raspberry, and spinach pineapple, you can fill up on flavor, not calories. Each meal replacement smoothie is packed with 20 grams of protein, 7 grams of fiber, and 23 vitamins and minerals, all under 350 calories with 0 grams of added sugar. So next time you want something flavorful, swap fast food for a Power Meal Smoothie. Order today on the Smoothie King app. Smoothie King, the official smoothie of the Dallas Cowboys.
I'm Darren Woodson, former Dallas Cowboy player and Super Bowl champion. When I played in the NFL at a high level, I relied on my vision to see the field. As I started getting older, I noticed my vision wasn't as good, and I was getting frustrated from wearing my glasses all day. I went to Laser Care Eye Center, and Dr. G talked about all the options. Thanks to technology and Laser Care Eye Center, I can see near, far, and between. Don't fumble your vision any longer. Visit them at dfweyes.com and tell them Darren sent you. They got me back on my game.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, singing, and toasting Miller Lite and 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Back here on the Draft Show, presented by Miller Lite, the official beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Back here with Brian Broaddus, Bobby Belt, Zach Wolchuk, and Aisha Morrison. It's time now for some
Twitter on the 20.
Nice job, Jazz Marshall and Terrence Williams running the ship for Chris Beam in the back. All right, answering your questions, starting off with Steven. He says, how much does Jake Ferguson and Peyton Hendershot impact your decision to draft a tight end on day 1 or day 2? Does it move the needle at all, Bobby?
No, not a bit.
Why is that?
I mean, they're good players. You like them, but I mean, look, I think you have clearly heard the way that Jerry and the fact that the offensive coaching staff was basically back in Dallas for the combine running install, except for Lunda Wells, who was there in Indianapolis working out the tight ends. I think they've shown that they believe they can get better there with this class, and so because of their ability to get better, or the opportunity to get better there, they're not just going to pass on that in the name of, well, we like these guys. They can like them and still, I think, approach it from a position of, this is still an area where we feel like we could definitely get better in the first 3 rounds.
The only thing that made me pause was what Steven said yesterday. I wonder if they just think, hey, we got 2 guys that are good pass catchers and Hendershot who can stretch the field. We saw what Fergie was able to do, being able to leap guys in the open field last year. You know, that's why they're putting more of an emphasis on getting a tight end that's well-rounded that can also inline block. Because I think Fergie can. That's certainly a weakness in Hendershot's game. We saw that specifically in the Titans game last year.
And I saw this pop up on Twitter the other day, though, but the numbers over the last 11 games for Peyton Hendershot weren't phenomenal. It wasn't like he was setting the world on fire. He had like 4 catches and I think 11 yards or something like that. And then one of them was off of his hands and it was an interception that was caused. So it's not like he was completely trending in the right direction. I'm not saying Peyton Hendershot's a bad player by any stretch of the imagination. I still think he's shown what he can do stretching the field. But if it's going to deter you from drafting one of these special tight ends, I don't think that's necessarily the right thought.
No, I don't think it has anything to do with them. I feel like the Cowboys have shown that they're going to draft tight end and they're going to develop tight end at a regular, clip, just to have guys in there and to continue to develop guys. And with this class being so, I mean, we talk about the depth. I mean, I got to Leonard Taylor from Cincinnati yesterday, and I was just like, God dang, like there really are a lot of tight ends in this draft that I feel like they want to go early, like you said, Bobby. Like there might be a guy that is like their guy early, but if they don't get that guy, I think they can find tight ends almost in every round, for real.
No, you're not wrong. I kind of feel like if Dalton Kincaid's my tight end 1. I'm kind of down to wait. Like, I think Josh Wiley out of Cincinnati I love. Will Mallory's a guy from Miami that played with horrible quarterbacks, catches everything that was thrown his way. He could maybe end up being, the George Kittle of this class, where he didn't dominate in college, but he's got upside tremendously. There's a ton of athletic tight ends. It's deep. Payne Durham for Purdue. We can go on and on about guys that could come in and be super successful. You don't have to take a tight end round 1, but if they grade 1 that highly, this is a special, unique class.
I kind of feel like, though, that if you want to take the guy that has the chance to be that elite tight end, the pass catcher, the down the field guy, because my board's kind of split that way. When we've talked about all the guys at the top, but when you get down into that middle round, I'm Strange from Penn State
Strange,
is a guy. Let me get to my guys here.
Dominion tight end.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there were these guys there were these guys. It was Strange from Penn State, Wiley from Cincinnati, Latu from Alabama, Allen from Clemson.
Correct.
I have all these guys kind of in that 4th round there. We mentioned Kuntz would be a guy. Durham is a guy you mentioned. There is a divide between the two.
Yes,
there is, and with the other guys, I think you're getting more of a kind of when the Strange and the Wileys and the Latus and the Allens they're good at blocking, they're good at catching, but they're not that next level type of a tight end that you would say, oh, this is a down the field weapon type of a guy.
So are you looking for a guy to come in? With that being said, are you looking for a guy to come in and immediately be a difference maker?
Yes.
Not even tight end. You are.
Yep.
You don't think that either one of those gentlemen that are on the team can be tight end 1 right now?
No,
Probably
I think they can double up as a passable tight end coupling. And they can certainly grow into that, but they're like difference makers.
So, like you said, you got to it's split. Then.
Okay, to me, this is where I kind of draw the line. If you're telling me on these tight ends that I'm going to draft Mayer, Kincaid, Musgrave, or Washington, plug and play. Okay, Kraft, Laporta, Schoonmaker from Michigan. Mm-hmm. These are guys, Strange, Wiley, the guys I just mentioned. Those are the guys that probably are going to fit in and be rotational guys. But those 4 guys that I mentioned ahead, those are plug and play. Okay. But Laporta, Schoonmaker from Michigan, Strange, Wiley, boom. Those guys fit into, maybe you got Hendershot and Ferguson play before those guys. These other guys are going to have to be, I think, rotational players.
I would put Schoonmaker in with the guys who I think you.
I like Schoonmaker. I like Schoonmaker. I like Schoonmaker.
If I'm not taking,
they run the ball behind him.
They do.
Yes,
they do. Schoonmaker's good.
Yeah.
Same thing with Allen from Clemson. Like Allen seems like to me, he's a Dalton Schultz type of clone. I think he gives you a lot of similar things. I'm going with Josh Wiley if I don't take one of these.
Okay. Cincinnati.
Yeah, it was from Cincinnati. I think this dude has a chance to be a big time player. Can play on the outside in the slot, tough, catches the ball high, low, big catch radius at 6'7". That dude's to me that I've kind of circled could end up being the absolute gem among these tight ends.
Just the stats specifically to give some context here. Peyton Hendershot, over the last 10 regular season games, 6 targets, 4 receptions, 33 yards, and 1 touchdown. That's it. 4 receptions, 33 yards, and 6 targets. And then Jake Ferguson wasn't much better. 12 receptions. He did catch all 12 targets for 114 and a touchdown.
Those
over
two
the
dudes,
final 10 regular season games.
Those 2 dudes are not keeping me from drafting a tight end.
No.
I'm sorry.
I'm also not trying to run them out of town.
No.
I want them on the stand. But I think you can absolutely upgrade that spot.
Yep.
Okay, so here's a couple questions talking about trading up. We kind of mentioned this in passing last week, but this one specific, I don't know how to say it in a name, I'm sorry. But he says, if either Bijan Robinson, Kalijah Cansey from Pitt, or Darnell Wright from Tennessee are still available around pick number 20, is Dallas sticking at pick 26, or would they pull the trigger and go up and get one of those guys?
I don't think they would trade for Robinson. I don't see them moving up. I just don't. And to me, the guy that makes, I don't think they'd move up for Cansey. I think that we're thinking.
I would not.
I don't think we're in that mode right now where they're going to trade up for a 3 technique. I mean, I think if he's there at 26, you would surely consider him. But I'm not moving up. The guy that I would trade up for if he was that close, if I knew that I was going to lose him between 20 and 26, I would trade up for Wright. Because I feel like that I'm getting a first-round tackle that I could play at guard, and he's close. Bijan Robinson. I'm gonna gamble. I'm gonna gamble that he if he doesn't get to me, fine, I'll move on. I'll find a way to get his teammate in the third round or something like that. I love Bijan Robinson. Don't get me wrong. I just think the one guy that I think that tackle guard combination could really, really help. The running back could help you too, but if I had to move up, I think I would try and secure Wright and gamble on the other two.
Yep, I'm with you. I don't think, and I'm not trying to rip on Kancey, good player. I don't think there's been a more overhyped player in this entire draft.
Wow.
From going to top 10, he kills the combine. You watch the tape, it just doesn't wow you like, oh my gosh, I'm going to move up and go get this guy. So I Darnell Wright I love, but really the only lineman that I would consider going up for is Skoronski.
Mm-hmm. That's what you go up for. If he gets to like 16, 17, I start making calls.
Is that a possibility?
I don't think so. But if he were to start getting into that territory, I'd call. There's a point, and I don't know.
Philadelphia might take him at 10.
Yeah, you're starting to hear some.
I
think you're starting to hear some chatter about Joey Porter sliding further. That I don't know about to Dallas, but sliding further than we had initially thought.
See,
Dane referred to Joey Porter as mid to late 20s.
Oh.
Which if he starts getting to like 22, 23, I might.
See, we did a
mock fancy.
Don't get too excited over there.
No, we did a Love of the Star. We did a Love of the Star podcast this past Sunday, and we did the mock, and it simulated, and Porter got to us.
I know you took him over Jackson Smith and Jigba, but I'd have done the same thing.
Yeah,
and I love JSN.
I know you would have. Yeah. No, but I think that if he were to get to a certain range, like early 20s, I might start calling for that too. Yeah. I'd call up on Joey Porter.
Yeah, I've got Porter as my number 11 player and Jackson Smith and Jigba at 14. So I think I would join you guys in that regard. That one's tough. All right, what is the worst kept secret of the Dallas Cowboys draft process so far? Based off of the rumors that you've heard.
Particular to
it's a great question.
To this year?
He doesn't specify, but we could do either one, this year or in years past. Why not?
In years past, the worst kept secret was they draft off the 30 list. That's not as relevant the last couple of years, it doesn't feel like. I'm trying
There's some guys there.
No, I know, but their first pick with
it was always
you knew
there.
it was somebody of the top 30.
Tyler Smith was not there
Tyler
last
Smith
year.
Was not.
Yeah.
I don't think Parsons had one scheduled when they ended out picking it. Now, obviously, that was not the COVID year; it was the year before. But the year before, they hadn't scheduled Lamb they weren't going to schedule Lamb for a visit. Mike, I don't think, had a 30, and so they haven't always done it. During the McCarthy era, it hasn't been as hard and fast a rule. Presently,
Pardon me?
I don't know. What would be that? What's a poor? I feel like they're keeping secrets pretty well this time around.
They are. Let me tell you this.
They're hunting running backs. That's a poorly kept
kept secret is they're clearly going to draft a quarterback.
Gosh dang it, Brian. I was sitting over here waiting quietly, but you're 100% right. I co-signed this.
How early?
What?
How early?
If you're talking
Fourth
about
round.
if you're
fourth round, I will bet anybody they don't pick one in the first 5 rounds.
You think so?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
think it'll be later than that?
Yep.
Okay, they went and they did a private workout and had a Zoom meeting with Aiden O'Connell from Purdue.
Did the same with Hurts.
What do you think about him?
I'll tell you what, I have him in the 4th round. I have him at 96, my 96th best player overall.
Wow.
I was asking this because Dane Berglund asked me a question he asked me about a quarterback for his mock draft. And he said, who would you think if they took a quarterback in the 4th round? And I said Aiden O'Connell from Purdue. He said he's gone on my board. He's already gone. So to me, if Dallas was serious about Aiden O'Connell, quarterback Purdue, they might have to take him in the 3rd round. That might be it because they're doing some work on this guy. I mean, we've seen they brought in Tune and this for Dallas Day and all that. We 30 whatever visits. But the one guy that appears that they've done that let's go out and work a guy out kind of bit, private workout, go out. They didn't want anybody else to see him throwing the ball or what they were going to put him through. This might be one of the worst kept secrets that all of a sudden we're sitting there at some point in time and Aiden O'Connell's on that board and they're going to hand that card in.
Oh, man, I think it's Clayton Tune same deal, same kind of thing, but with Clayton Tune from Houston is kind of that guy that I have circled. And I think it goes to what they've looked at in quarterbacks in the past. They look for decision-making, leadership ability, mobility, which is a big thing because Aiden O'Connell is a true pocket passer. He is not going to run it a whole lot. Clayton Tune can be mobile. He can kind of rotate around.
He's not
He
the
can go
most
back and
comfortable
forth.
moving around like that, what you're talking about. But
With Tune specifically?
Yeah, with Tune. I mean,
he's not a runner.
No, but you're right. He can move. But both these guys are like, 5-year starters.
Yeah.
Tune is a guy.
Experience is there.
Captain, 3-time captain. We're starting to have a time in football where it used to be, let's take the 1-year guy. There's a reason why Hendon Hooker, he is a 6-year senior. Mm-hmm. There's reasons why people, it happened last year with Brock Purdy. All of a sudden it's like you take a guy that's mature, that's played a lot of snaps, that's a captain. That's what you get in O'Connell and Tune and Hooker and guys like that. If you're drafting Richardson, hold on to your ass. Here we go.
Yep.
You're getting a guy that doesn't have a whole hell of a lot of experience. Man, he passes the eye test, but these teams are starting to look at maybe the kids with the most experience and the most games played are the ones that come in and do the best jobs.
There's an analytical study out there, and I got to go find it. I don't know where it was, but it's talking about how quarterbacks that have at least 1,000 pass attempts in college seemingly have more success. There's a higher percentage of success rate around those quarterbacks when they make it to the NFL.
Makes
I'm going to go.
What's
I'm going to find it.
That S2 test?
S2 cognitive test.
The cognitive test. The Cowboys have been using that
For years.
You figure out who the top guys are. And the numbers I heard were that Bryce Young was one of the top guys and C.J. Stroud was one of the lower guys. And if you believe in that S2 test, well, that tells a lot about these quarterbacks.
Data so far has been pretty impressive there. And both those guys, O'Connell and Tune, they've got the size. Like they're both 6'2", 6'3". They've got that prototypical size you're looking for, which makes me feel bad about my guy Jaron Hall, who is the one that I would probably like to take.
I like him too.
I'm a big fan of Jaron.
What do you like
They
about him,
met with him at the
Aisha?
combine. They had a formal with him.
Okay, let's go. Yay.
What?
What do you think about him?
Yeah, I like how he delivers the ball. I feel like his pocket presence is good. It's good enough to me. It's good enough for him to come in and be a guy. And to Brian's point, we are in a league now where you saw more backup quarterbacks play than I think we've ever seen have to come in and play. But for this team in particular, when you talk about the quarterback position, I love Dak Prescott. I think he's a great quarterback, right? I think he's a good quarterback right now. However, he has had injuries this last couple of years, so you start preparing for the fact that you've seen what Cooper Rush can do. You've seen his ceiling, right?
Yeah.
So bringing in another guy to me it's about that time. I think it's about that time also to keep the competition fresh. But yeah, you're gonna see a guy come in. But as far that's how I feel about them drafting quarterback. Is it a problem? How are you guys gonna feel about it if they do draft a quarterback that soon?
That's not a problem.
I think it's great. Yeah,
No,
it's
Dak's
not a guy.
I mean, Dak's not Carson Wentz. He's not mentally fragile. He's not going to get rattled by this. If anything, I think Dak welcomes the competition.
Absolutely.
Carson Wentz
Just
catching
swerving ahead
strays.
Carson's Wentz.
Don't do him like that.
He's proven that, though.
Out of the league, right?
To Aisha's point, 5 quarterbacks were taken in day 3 yesterday, right? Or not yesterday, last year. 5 quarterbacks were taken on day 3. 4 of them had to start at some point in the season.
Yeah.
They had to come in and
See,
play.
this is not a bad group when you watch Hayner from Fresno.
Yes.
Thompson Robinson, he's got people like him. I mean, it's a drop back. It's like, oh, look out. We're going to now. I mean, some of his best plays are him running.
They're all him running.
I was watching him yesterday. And I think what's going to sell people on Thompson Robinson also, too,
UCLA.
looking at the Shrine Ball and all that stuff, is a lot of the character. Off the field stuff, a lot of people are very high on what he brings to the locker room and just his calmness and all that stuff, too. So I feel like it's both things.
And he's clearly put in the work every year because he improved every year at UCLA. So I can understand. And talk about starts. Most starts in school history,
Right.
they're 48.
Yeah.
But that throwing motion, he's got from the hip, long winding motion.
Oh, it's crazy.
I did not like it.
I know it's nuts, but I mean his ability. I mean, I remember a long wind up motion. Randall Cunningham. He's like he had a buggy whip for an arm.
Byron
That thing went, and it just, he went way back and it just comes flying through. But he's the mobility and stuff like that. I mean, you could, like I said, I watched Stetson Bennett. Same way. I mean, it's a tiny guy, but all he did was win.
Sure.
All he did was win. And so, that's if you're kind of looking for those guys in day 3, what you're talking about, but I think the Cowboys, if I had to say they maybe focused on a guy, and I know I respect what you're saying about Tune, but that kid at Purdue is a guy, I'd keep an eye on that one.
Right. Definitely so.
Tanner McKee. from Stanford.
Man,
First round prospect, right?
That's
Yeah,
Brian's
I'd
number
say
one
so.
quarterback.
Jaren's a
on
gamer.
Brian just cannot stop talking about the kid.
He's a gamer. Jaren.
McKee?
No, Jaren.
Oh, Jared
he
Hall's
I
loves
think
Hall.
he's a
I love
gamer.
Jaren
He
Hall.
just looks like
Yeah,
a quarterback.
he's the guy that I would take, but Tanner McKee is not as good as any of the,
The
guys we've
BYU
been talking
kid?
about. Yeah, Jaron Hall. I love
Zach
Jaron
Wilson didn't do anything to you
Jaron
guys?
Hall's going to need to this is the type of system Jaron Hall has to walk into is West Coast because Jaron Hall's going to have to play in a timing
I
system.
agree. Good decision maker too. He doesn't hesitate. Jaron Hall, I don't think has the leadership question marks that Zach Wilson did.
No.
I don't think people respect Zach Wilson in that huddle.
Ooh.
Barnacle.
There you
Dang,
go.
where were you last year when we were talking about this guy?
I wasn't
You didn't invite me.
It hurt.
He was listening. All right. You idiots. That's it for Twitter on the 20. We'll answer some more tomorrow. When we come back, I got a couple more factor fibs to throw out there, and then we'll wrap things up and get you ready for tomorrow's episode with more of the Draft Show right after this.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Blockchain.com is one of the most trusted ways to buy, sell, and trade crypto. Whether you're always on the go or stay closer to home, Blockchain.com is just a few taps away. Put the power of crypto in your pocket, so no matter where you are, you can trade on your terms and build a crypto portfolio to fit your life. For crypto pros, rookies, and anyone in between, Blockchain.com makes it easy to own a piece of the future. Blockchain.com, trusted by millions, trusted by America's team.
In a stressful world, Lincoln provides balance and calm amidst the chaos by creating sanctuaries that move you through the world with ease. Our vehicles make your time richer and more uplifting with human-centric design, intelligent technology, and powerful performance. As the official luxury vehicle of the Dallas Cowboys, driving a Lincoln is just another way to show your team pride. Experience our full lineup of luxury vehicles, including the Corsair, Aviator, Navigator, and Nautilus at Lincoln.com.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, sinking, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with pre-game sideline access and photo ops with current players, cheerleaders, and Cowboy legends. You want to stay at a team hotel, attend the best tailgate party in Texas, tour the Star, and talk X's and O's with me, Everson Walls? With Star Sports Tours, you can. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Back here on the Draft Show, final segment. Before
Thanks, Jazz.
Bobby can leave.
Bobby.
Oh, man.
So nice when Bobby
I was
wasn't
kicked
part
out
of
of
that.
crosstalk today.
Were you?
Yeah.
This
Sean
is
was like, "You're out of
equivalent
crosstalk today. You're too loose today."
Crosstalk. Oh my gosh.
Rohit is how you say the guy's name on Twitter on the 20. He just sent me a pronunciation guide. Thank you very much, Rohit.
Thank you,
Appreciate you.
Rohit.
All right. Let's do some more factor fib. I'm going to start with Brian on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Jahmyr Gibbs will go in the first round. Alabama running back. Will go in the top 32.
You're saying I think that's a fib. I think that's a fib.
Falls out?
I think that to me and I think there's going to be a little bit of a run on these running backs, but I don't think if the one running back that goes in the first, I believe it will be Robinson. Mm-hmm. But Gibbs is one of those guys that's
Roshan Johnson.
Gibbs is just super, super impressive. But I kind of think second round, Gibbs, A-Chain, Texas A&M, Charbonneau from UCLA. Mm-hmm. I think those are the guys you kind of can see. Maybe we get started into that the beginning or the. I think Gibbs will be the next back, but I think he'll be early in the second is where he would go.
Yeah.
Can I got one that I'm curious about.
Go for it.
We discussed this a little bit with Jim Nagy the other day.
Spears?
Adetomiwa Adebari goes in the first round.
Ooh.
What?
Ooh.
There's buzz.
Who did Mel?
Is there?
So who would
There
take
is.
him? The Eagles at 30?
Who did Mel?
Back into the first.
Did Mel Kiper mock him?
Kiper mocked Adebawore to the Cowboys about a month ago in the first round.
Yeah.
If you're not taking him as an edge, I think he has I think he has upside. I mean, obviously.
I think most people view him as a tackle.
As a tackle? You see
as
him as yeah.
Oh, see, I was looking at him as an edge.
No. Don't you dare.
Yeah.
Because it'll definitely skew.
Underwhelmed.
I think he's a tackle.
I don't disagree with her. I kind of felt like some of his best work was at tackle.
I thought all of his splash plays were inside.
And I think his best work is going to come from tackle.
I'm going to watch him again.
Will come from D tackle because of the explosiveness and that small amount of space.
Yeah.
I think that's what causes people problems with him is that speed.
Gets
that
on you quick.
explosion.
Bobby, you're onto something here. I think the Saints at 29. That's an interesting team to look out for.
Well, yeah, and Jim Nagy told us he was like that. People are media's been slow on him. He's like media's slow on him. We had somebody tweeted us on Love the Star that we were doing, and they tweeted a comp that ever since they sent me the comp, I can't unsee it when I watch it. Michael Bennett. Ooh. It's very Michael Bennett.
What?
He's very Michael Bennett.
I'll say this. I think he's going to be a better D tackle than Cansey.
Woo! That's fair.
Now that's a hot take.
I would take him over Cansey.
It's not a hot take.
I don't believe it's a hot take. I don't believe it's a hot take because of there's a viciousness that he plays with that I don't see.
And he's way longer.
Yeah, I don't see. Yeah. And there's an explosion that I think that he has that it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem for centers,
I'm with
for
you,
guards.
Aisha.
It's going to be a problem. I mean, we talked about it, and I know that Brian definitely was like, people are going to go too high on this guy. Like, I remember when we first started talking about him months ago. But he's somebody that is definitely gone kind of under the radar since the Senior Bowl and since he killed the Combine. And I don't see a lot of people talking about him as much. But I agree with you.
Look,
he could be a
looks
first-round
mean.
guy.
You want to block that guy?
No.
I don't want to.
No, he do look kind of scary.
He looks like he's going to take your lunch.
He looks mean.
But the athleticism is through the charts to be somebody that can play in the middle of a defense.
Brian, would you take him over Cansey?
I don't think I would.
I wouldn't either.
You're being too quiet. I knew it.
I think
Brian's going for a tiny guy here.
You know what though? It's very. That's a mess.
He's not gonna touch it.
Well, no, it's another one of those things like Breesy, from Clemson. I mean, figure these guys out. We got Carter that's got maturity problems. Breesy, does he play well all the time? Cansey, is he overrated? I mean, I'm looking at Dexter from Florida. I'm looking at all these guys, and I'm like, man, I see flashes of really good play, and they terrify you. And when you guys were saying that he could be better than Cansey, I couldn't fire back at you and say no because I'm not. I think Cansey, I've seen more behind the line plays, and I'm kind of projecting our Northwestern kid to play inside where I've seen Cansey play inside, but I can't shoot down what you guys are saying about him. I can't.
It's interesting when you mentioned Breesy there.
Yeah.
I know we laughed at this a month ago, and if it happens, I'm going to have to apologize to the CBS Slappy, whatever his name was, I forget.
I can't even remember. I don't watch his work anymore. You scarred
Chris
me.
Trapasso.
Yeah, Trapasso.
Was that, Kuiper and McShay.
We're just firing at people
Kuiper and
all
McShay
day.
had Miles Murphy sliding to the 30s.
Yeah, see, what the heck's going on with this,
Wait,
man?
what?
I think Miles Murphy's getting disrespected.
I think he's a hell of
If
a
he's
player.
there at 26, I would take Miles.
I would too.
He's your D. Lawrence replacement eventually.
Yeah.
Yep. Ooh, interesting stuff.
I have him over Nolan Smith, and I really like Nolan Smith.
He's a more complete player. Yeah, I agree with you.
All right, 5 quarterbacks will go in the first round. All 5 of them. Richardson, Hooker, Levis, and then the top 2 guys, Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud.
Fact.
Y'all think
All
that?
of them are going?
Yep.
They
We're
about to ruin
trendsetters, baby.
everybody.
Everybody's on the Hendon Hooker bandwagon now.
Everybody.
When you mocked him, I kind of was like, man, he's being really creative here. And then now it's like everybody's kind of caught up with the Hendon Hooker. And I think it's even more fascinating that there are people that like Hendon Hooker over Richardson, which I think is interesting. I really, really
Why
do.
is that interesting?
You know what? It's
Ready to play now. He's
You told
34
us
years
why.
old.
Exactly. I mean,
not
it's
34,
interesting to me
Bobby.
because people
32, whatever.
are saying that Hooker. I think if Hooker wasn't injured, if he wasn't hurt, I think he would be over Richardson.
Yeah.
I think I would talk about that too.
I would take him
agree
over
with-
Stroud.
I would agree with that.
You would take him over Stroud?
I don't think C.J. Stroud's going to be a good player.
Wow, why is that?
I'm going with my. I got to trust my eye. I saw him play live.
Did you watch that Georgia game?
The Georgia game's the best game he played his entire career.
It's kind of like watching Smith and Jigma play against Utah.
Sure.
When you watch Stroud do what he does to Georgia, you're literally watching him play an NFL defense.
Yes, and that to me made me think like, what in the world? I'm so wrong about him, but I just got to stick to my gut, and if I'm wrong,
stick to that gut, the one that says you're so wrong about.
Aisha, did you
I'll take it?
Would you take Hooker over Richardson?
Because of the experience and stuff? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would in this
take
present.
a watch that doesn't beep during
this
the show.
present day, but no, Hendon Hooker was a interesting watch. He was a fun watch.
Yeah.
He's mechanically sound.
Yeah.
He'll
be the first quarterback taken in the first round with an AARP card.
We got to get over it. I think you mentioned it last show.
Now, Brian, Social Security.
You're right,
Bobby.
I watched him play enough to know he's not.
Yeah, he ain't going in the first. Sorry, guys. Go Mean Green. All right.
Five quarterbacks.
5 QBs.
Call BS. Call BS.
Four definitely are.
Go for it.
Nah. I think that people are gonna go quarterback, and it's gonna mess up. This is gonna change the whole board. That's why the first round gives me so much
every year.
Every year
the quarterbacks
keep
go
the other
around
one sliding.
So if somebody's a borderline, they're going early.
What? Why are you laughing? I do have a question though, real quick. Can I ask y'all a question?
Nope.
Yeah. Beam's
Barnacles.
gone, so we got a shot.
Okay, no. Let me ask you a question. Okay, so if you didn't get Darnell Wright, and you didn't get, I don't know who's the next. Obviously, you wouldn't get Skoronski. Okay, where'd you take Matthew Bergeron in the second round?
I think Bergeron is closer to Wright than we talk about.
Oh, I love Bergeron.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Bergeron, I like Bergeron.
That's what I was about to say. And when you talk about
55th player on my board,
big fan.
And when you talk about maybe moving to guard,
Bergeron would be a trade back guy for me. If you were to trade back to early 30s, I would take Bergeron.
You would take Bergeron.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all I had to ask because I feel like I've been looking at him for over a month now, but just seeing his feet and
your
how
run
he
blocking
moves,
gets better like
it
that.
gets, and he's a mauler,
and he's balanced, strong hands.
Oh, absolutely. When I saw him, I said, "Terrence Steele, that's you with some hair."
See, when you say you think that Darnell Wright's a better player than Tyler Smith is right now, I agree with that, but that's more because of the polish. Like, I think Tyler Smith's tools are better than what Darnell Wright's are. I think that Bergeron's tools are better than Darnell Wright's.
I'm a coward. I'm a coward.
I don't agree with that, but I like Bergeron a lot.
Well, you're wrong, and that's okay.
No, that's fine. You can't evaluate linemen.
I'm a coward on this one because I got Darwin Jones over Bergeron, but I got them like right there next to each other. From
Juwan Jones, sloppy technique guy.
I've got Jones and Malk in front of Bergeron actually, so I'm not too.
Well, I
off.
love Cody Malk. Don't get me wrong. That dude's an absolute beast. But
those are the top of my.
I could be really wrong about him.
I immediately looked at Bergeron and thought, like, when you look at the effort, the finishing ability, the athleticism, the all that stuff, the kick step is there. I'm like, if I'm trying to run the ball and deal with speedy DNs and stuff coming off this guy, I think can get his hands on people and be a problem.
You're not too off about DeJuan Jones. Though he's huge. I mean, he's so tough to get around.
She likes Bergeron better than Jones, right?
Yeah.
I do.
She just sold him.
Yeah.
I do.
mean, but I will say I don't mind. I think DeJuan Jones, I think his size throws people off because he seems really heavy, but when you look at his build and how he looks, he's not.
And he's more athletic than Orlando Brown Jr. And
he's
people
more
don't want to
athletic
Paris Johnson on one side and him, and you're like going, it's not even athletically, it's not even close.
No, C.J. Stroud never had a dirty pocket to deal with in his entire
not with that
career.
center,
He was
too.
blessed.
Also had a bunch of
But
first
Matthew
wide
Bergeron,
receivers
Syracuse,
to throw to.
is somebody I'm definitely keeping my eye on.
Keep your eyes on him, Bergeron.
The bust that will be
We've got
C.J.
some
Stroud.
We've got some more hot takes tomorrow.
Bergeron? No, Stroud.
C.J. Stroud.
Oh. Yeah. I read that somewhere.
We've got more hot takes tomorrow. We've got more information tomorrow. We'll take some of your questions tomorrow as well, as we are 1 week away from the NFL draft. For Bobby Belt, for Brian Broaddus, Zach Wolchuk, Aisha Morrison, I'm Kyle Yeomans. Also for Jasmine Marshall and Terrence Williams in the back. Very nice job, as always. We'll see you tomorrow with more of the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?